In today's episode of the Motorhome Matt podcast,
we unpack what does Thatcham Approved mean and how to pick the right tracker.
In the news, caravans on the Downs in Bristol have been towed away over the last few months.
And we answer your questions on accessible motorhomes, the pros and cons of motorhome types, caring for a motorhome and stock levels in dealerships.
Welcome to the Motorhome Matt podcast. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
Industry insights, expert advice for the world of motorhomes, caravans and campervans, and brought to you by thatleisureshop.com.
Now, please do remember to follow on your favourite podcast app and make sure you hit subscribe and the little bell on YouTube, brought to you by arrowbasecreative.co.uk.
In the news today, caravans on the Downs in Bristol have been towed away over the last few months. This is all about alternative living, isn't it, Matt?
It is, yeah. Rents and prices of houses in Bristol are now astronomical, and affording to live in one can be very inaccessible for many. So people are resorting to, or even choosing to live in a van as an alternative accommodation. The City Council's count of residential vehicles has risen from 100 in 2020 to 650 in 2024, housing about 800 people. The people living in them argue they have few options as they cannot afford the soaring rents.
Now, these aren't the travelling community. These aren't the pastime motorhomers, campervanners and caravanners. This is a whole new sector of people since the cost of living crisis who have, as you say, chosen to live. And they've been parking on a large green space in the centre of Bristol called the Downs, and now they're being moved on. The Friends of the Downs acknowledge that the vehicle dwellers have limited options. There are 5 council-run sites with space for 60 vehicles, but they are all currently full. We've got a quote here. We've got a great deal of sympathy for people whose circumstances force them into this itinerant lifestyle, said Robert Westlake, the group's chair for the Friends of the Downs. That said, he says, we always felt this situation has gone on too long and has been badly managed. Well, they're the ones that have been managed it. Aren't they?
Fair comment. Yeah, it seems to. And the council, of course, the city council.
Yeah.
And it has been badly managed, both in terms of resources for those that live there, so infrastructure for them to get rid of their waste, their rubbish, toilet waste. It's just, there's no facility for them at all. So it needs sorting out for sure. And of course, Bristol kind of pioneers van life in this sense. It has a long history of people engaging with van life in this way, and it's not the only city being affected by this across the UK. So I'm sure this is a story we'll see more and more of across Britain. But
as usual, the response of councils and authorities, instead of providing facilities for people and finding an answer to it, just ban it, make it criminal and start towing people away. We'll keep you updated about how things are going, because Bristol can't be the only city where this will ever happen.
Exactly. I'm sure it's not. I know it's not. And where do they go if they can't camp or stop in this beautiful part of the city? Where are they going to park? That's the question.
It's the Motorhome Matt podcast. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
And it's brought to you with thatleisureshop.com. Our product of the week this week. It's back. It has returned. It is.
Here it is. Look at this. Who thought a tracker could be fun?
Called GPS Bob.
This is a GPS Bob tracker. I love their packaging. These guys are Motorhome Matt approved, and I've been engaging with them on their product. They're fairly new to the motorhome and leisure sector. This is a tracker from GPS Bob, and you bolt this into your motorhome. You can fit this one yourself, hide it away somewhere, connect to the leisure battery or the starter battery, or you can get it professionally fitted and hidden away somewhere in the dashboard. They're a brilliant company, and as I say, they really have put the fun back into trackers.
It is Motorhome Matt approved, and by the way, you can get £10 off any purchase with the code Motorhome Matt. But where do you have to visit to get that discount then, Matt?
Just head to mhmp.info/approved. Search for trackers. It will take you straight to GPS Bob.
Lovely, fantastic. Or you could go mhmp.info/GPS Bob. Did you know that?
Of course you could, yeah.
It's the Motorhome Matt podcast. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
Brought to you with thatleisureshop.com. What is Thatcham? Thatcham your roof in the countryside.
Different type of thatching, that one.
Is that a different one?
Yeah.
Is it? Oh, okay. So what is Thatcham?
So lots of us owning a motorhome, camper van, or even a caravan are being asked to fit a tracker to our leisure vehicle, and often being asked to fit a Thatcham approved tracker.
First of all, question one, what is a tracker?
It monitors your vehicle, its location. You can set up a perimeter around it, often called a geofence. And if it drives through that, you are alerted, assuming you're not driving it, or even if you are driving it. If it's started without the key or the battery is disconnected, all these things are monitored and you are alerted to those events.
So it stops your motorhome, your prize, camper van or caravan being... Can you fit them to caravans?
You can fit them to caravans, yeah.
Being half-inched, nicked.
Not necessarily stops it, but it would make you aware that it potentially has been stolen when you're not with it. So Thatcham Approved is a kind of industry benchmark. Thatcham are a company based in Berkshire, and they have been monitoring, creating standards for the security industry, for alarm systems, for vehicle security for many years. And they've kind of set the bar, and their insurance industry recognised, and there are different levels of Thatcham approval. So you can get a basic tracker, which you can monitor all those things on the vehicle, but you're not necessarily going to be alerted to anything going wrong. A Thatcham approved tracker requires a subscription, so you're going to pay a amount of money to Thatcham or to your tracking company, and the standard at which it monitors the vehicle is monitored by Thatcham and other certain...
So the level of service for the subscription increases, does it?
And the quality of their hardware that's been installed as well, yeah, absolutely.
So some insurers require Thatcham approved trackers. So you've already explained they're a higher standard. So how does Thatcham's approval process impact your insurance premium? Does it make it cheaper?
So it could make it cheaper, and often does, and actually could enable you to get insurance in the first place. So many insurance companies want a Thatcham approved tracker on a vehicle worth more than £50,000. There will be a threshold where insurance companies want a tracker. Now that threshold possibly has crept up over recent years as values have gone up, but thefts have gone up. So many insurance companies have lowered the threshold, meaning most motorhomes, brand new, need to have one of these little devices fitted to them. And the different levels are, you'll hear phrases like S7, S5 and S5 Plus. And we'll unpack that in a minute with a special guest. But they are vital to have. Certainly your insurance company may insist you have it. I think they're a really good investment, whether they insist or not.
All those letters and numbers, you can always tell it's been invented by a man, can't you? Should be a name, shouldn't it? Like Thunderbolt. Yeah.
That would be a proper man name, wouldn't it?
There would be Thunderbolt.
Maybe you could reinvent Thatcham Approval.
Lightning Sid. You've been talking to somebody, haven't you?
Yeah, we caught up with Guy, who's the technical development manager at GPS Bob. He's a lovely chap. He's a lovely guy. And we asked him to unpack a little bit more about the different levels of Thatcham Approval. Guy, welcome to the studio. It's great to have you with us. Yeah. We first met at the Manchester show in January 24 this year.
Yep.
And you've been in the tracker game for about 15 years, but GPS Bob is new to this market, isn't it? The leisure market.
Yeah.
And when I met you, I was really intrigued, not just by the range of products you offer, but the subscription models. And actually, I've joked before that you've kind of put fun back into tracking.
As much as we can, I suppose, yeah.
Who thought you could ever say that as possible? But just tell us, we want to unpack the Thatcham thing, because it's so confusing. Can you just shed some clarity for us on the different categories of Thatcham and why they exist?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So Thatcham exists for your insurance companies. They may specify that you need a Thatcham unit on your vehicle, whether it be a motorhome or any other vehicle there. They start as an S7, which is sort of the standard category. I think that used to be a category...
S6?
S6 they used to call
so
it.
So S6 is gone?
Yeah, so they now call it an S7.
Okay, right. So that's the basic Thatcham approved tracker.
Thatcham approved, yeah, that's this one here. We've got the few trackers here,
so
I'll show you
for those listening, we've got a range of plastic boxes on the desk here, little black boxes, which are the tracker units themselves.
They are, yeah. So this is what we use for the S7. We also have the S5. The difference there is that you get a driver recognition tag.
Right. So the first thing we've got to understand is that an S5 is a higher grade tracker than an S7.
Yeah, doesn't make sense, but yes, it is.
That is the wrong way around, surely.
Yeah.
Okay, so an S5 is a higher spec, and that requires this little fob.
Yes, this is fob. So this is our fob that we've made. It's a TOTP, so it's one-time password, similar to what your bank card reader.
Now these are clever, aren't they? You've told me about these before.
Yeah, they are. So they're connected to the tracker, so there's no way to copy them. So it's time sync to the tracker. And it will change every 60 seconds.
Right. So we're going to come on to cloning trackers in a minute and scanning them, because that's a big question people have. So this fob, you could scan it, but in 60 seconds, its identity is going to change. Yeah. That's clever.
Yeah.
And is that unique to you?
It is something that we've put time, money into that.
That's clever.
And done the research
okay, so an S5 requires this fob, and the vehicle won't start without it?
That's an S5 Plus. So that is so there's another one, but
right. Okay.
So an S5 Plus is same device here, but without this tag, it will not start the vehicle.
Right. So we've got S7 is the basic Thatcham approved.
Yep.
We've got S5, which requires the fob. The vehicle will start without the fob.
It will.
But you're alerted to the fact it's been started potentially erroneously.
So yeah.
And S5 Plus means it won't start without a fob.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you've got an S5, vehicle starts without the tag. That is an alert on the platform as potential theft.
Okay, got it. Now, talk to me then about Thatcham themselves. How do they assess a tracker and give it their stamp of approval?
Yeah, so Thatcham itself, the research company, they started out as that. We've moved on from vehicles, alarm systems, which you may have heard Category 1 alarm systems, things like that for your car. It's usually a drop down on your insurance sort of thing for your mobilisation. They moved on to the trackers, so they will do a lot of testing on there. They will do the testing, so they will imitate a towaway alert, so no ignition feed on the vehicle, towaway to make sure that is done in a timely manner, that goes through to a call centre and just starts the process of a full alert. Because all of the Thatcham units are 24-hour monitored, so if any of these events happen, whether it's a towaway alert or driving without driver recognition, you will get an alert sent to you with via phone, email, and so on.
It's usually a phone call, isn't it? Pre-recorded phone call.
It will be, yeah.
And the tracking company so it's the tracking company that are monitoring the tracker.
Yep.
They will ring you to say there's been an alert on your vehicle.
Yep.
And they require you to phone into them?
So our system, obviously those can be slightly different, but we have a 1, 2, 3 sort of phone call in there. So is your vehicle stolen? Press 1 if so, press 2 if not, and press 3 if you don't know. And then that will then continue, and then they will get another call back.
Okay.
If there is no communication there at all, say the phone isn't answered, it will go on to the next person on the list. So you can add sort of 2, 3 people on there. So if you're not around, it will ring the next person. Again, if it doesn't have any contact with anybody, it will then go into a parked, and then that situation will be there, and it will just continue with the email and what have you, waiting for a response.
Right, so it's really important then you are able to be contacted.
Yes.
In the event your vehicle is moved or battery disconnect or potentially stolen.
Yep.
So do you submit this hardware then to this company, Thatcham, for assessment?
Yeah, they come out and do the test with us. The other test they'll do, it has to resist attack for 2 minutes.
Resist attack?
So resist attack works by tools or jammed, anything like that. So we've got that, and obviously you spoke there about the disconnected battery. So if it loses power, it has to last 8 hours. And tracking
on its own battery.
On its own battery and tracking at a minute.
Okay.
So every minute it has to track at a maximum.
I'd say that's a useful feature of any tracker, that you can monitor the battery voltage.
Yes.
On the app. So there's often an app, isn't there? And you can see, the battery's down to 11.9 volts. It's not going to start tomorrow when we go on holiday. So you need to get there early.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect for motorhomes. Perfect for caravans. Things like that. It does work well with that.
So let's just talk about caravans then.
Yes.
You mentioned the C word. We're going to allow it on the Motorhome Map podcast. You can fit a tracker to a caravan, but it doesn't have an ignition to start an engine.
Yes, true.
So how do you manage that on a caravan?
So what we do is get our engineers to fit an inline switch somewhere in the caravan.
Right.
The inline switch would imitate the ignition feed. So if you hooked up your caravan without doing that, it would be a towaway alert.
So if you moved it without the switch on,
it would be a towaway alert.
So the owner needs to go in the caravan, find this hidden switch, I presume, turn it on, and then it's safe to move.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Right, I think that's clear. Can we talk about stats just quickly? So,
Yes.
We know that we have to have a tracker if our insurance company tell us,
Yep.
which is normally about asset value because they're trying to protect the asset
Yep.
from theft. But you don't have to have a Thatcham approved tracker. And in fact, you could choose to have a tracker whether your insurance company tell you or not.
That's true. Yeah.
But one of the reasons for having a tracker are some of these scary statistics that we were talking about earlier, which is the number of cars particularly. It's hard to get real statistics on motorhomes and caravans. The insurance companies will probably have them, but tell us how many cars are nicked in the UK.
Yeah, so 2023, there was just under 65,000 cars stolen, which equates to roughly about 1 every 8 minutes.
Wow.
So it is, a huge amount there. And if you have a tracker on there, the likelihood of you getting that back is about a 95% recovery rate. Moving forward with that, 86% of that 95% within the first 24 hours of having that.
So it's quick.
Yeah.
It's quick, provided you've got a tracker.
Yeah.
Okay, we're talking about motorhomes, but of course this is relevant to our cars. When I've got one on my VW van and my motorbike, actually, because I know my insurance company don't need me to have one, but it's just useful, I think, to protect my asset. So let's talk then about the range of trackers you've got. So we've talked about the Thatcham ones, that are Thatcham approved, but of course you can fit those without having the Thatcham subscription. So we didn't touch on that, did we? If it's a Thatcham tracker, you've got to pay a monthly fee.
Yeah.
We'll unpack costs in a minute, but that's a key thing, isn't it? You buy the hardware and then you've got to pay a subscription if it's Thatcham.
Yes.
But if it's not Thatcham, there's no subscription, is that right?
Yeah, so we've got the 2-wire tracker here. This is usually a self-fit, so you've got a positive and negative. You can fit it to your battery, where you've got a sticky pad there.
Yep.
Obviously, if you want it a little bit more hidden, you can do that as well, as long as you've got a 12 or 24 volt supply on there. So obviously some motorhomes have the 24 volt.
And you monitor this yourself in your app?
Yeah, so 4G device, that's 21999, that's for 5 years tracking on there. So no subscription on that.
So no subscription. And this is where you, as a business, are upsetting the market,
Yeah.
as far as I can see. I mean, these are normally about 500 quid.
The thing, what we've found is that there's a lot of other companies out there that are selling them, say, £50, but then there'll be a £100 a year subscription fee.
Yeah.
So with ours, obviously, 219, you could save up to, say, £300.
And that lasts for 5 years.
That's 5 years.
What happens at the end of 5 years?
5 years, it's £60 to register for another 5 years, and all that is that we've got to update the SIM card. So we put more data on the SIM card.
Right, wow. And you can keep updating it every 5
Yep.
years? I mean, eventually, I presume the hardware is going to expire.
At the moment, we haven't got a timeline on that, but obviously warranties and such like things don't last forever as long as they used to. But yeah, we've had plenty out there. We've got some out there for 10 years or so.
So £219 buys you a tracker.
Yeah.
And it's live for 5 years in the app.
Yeah.
60 quid after 5 years, it goes for another 5 years.
Yeah.
And no Thatcham approval, no monitoring, you can keep an eye on it yourself.
Yeah. The only advantage that you could do, and this is the only subscription base that we've sort of got on these, is that you could go for a professional plan as well. The professional plan is £30 a year,
Right.
and that will give you geofencing and things like that. So you basically, you could act, as I say, a little bit more like the Thatcham does, except it'll be push notifications to your phone. So if it leaves a certain area, you get notification on ignition on and movement as well. That's not something that we do on the home plan, which is why we've been able to keep it so low, because not everyone will want to use the moving alerts or geofencing.
No.
They just want a tracker and know where it is.
Got it. Okay. So that's the 4G tracker. What have we got next?
Yeah, so we've got some sort of easier ones, if you like. So there's no wiring involved at all. We've got just an OBD tracker as well.
An OBD. So explain for the listeners what an OBD
tracker is. Yeah, so
tracker is.
OBD, you'll have a port which is usually used for diagnostic ports.
Yeah.
Usually speaking, most of them are somewhere in the footwell or the centre console. Plug that in there. As soon as you plugged it in, that's it.
But easily removed.
Easily removed.
A thief would know where to look for that.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say I would use it for that, because obviously it's not going to be particularly well hidden.
Yeah.
But if you have multiple vehicles, you can have that in there. Or rentals do it quite a lot. If they're renting the vehicles out on a nightly basis, they can pop that in there and see where the vehicles are.
Or you just want to track somebody using your car.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, what we've got?
Yeah, so after that we've got an asset tracker. This is, again, 5-year tracker, and it's just done on AA batteries. AAA batteries there. 3 AAA batteries, and it'll last 5 years. So you can pop it in a vehicle and forget about it. Quite good for caravans if you haven't got a battery in there some caravans don't have the battery or the solar panels. You can have that in there, so you can still have a tracker.
So
on
you could fit that then in a vehicle that has got the all singing, all dancing.
You could do, yeah.
Thatcham tracker.
Yeah.
In the event that was stolen,
Yeah.
or taken out of the vehicle by a thief, you'd still have that in.
Yeah, we do have that as well. We call it a sleeper tracker unit, so we do have that and this together. As you say, once somebody has found one tracker, they're not usually going to look for a second one. And with this one, it talks in 4 times a day. So if you had a device that was looking for a tracker, you'd be very lucky to see this one.
So we mentioned cloning earlier and scanning trackers, right? So that's the issue, isn't it? So the Thatcham, the big, for this fancy big one here, the S5 tracker, is constantly reporting, so is easily scanned. Is that true?
So it will, if it's stationary, so if the vehicle's stationary, it'll check in every 4 hours. Right. If the vehicle's been moved, it'll then track every 30 seconds.
And is it easy to scan a tracker?
It depends on what you've got. I mean, the technology out there, unfortunately, as you upgrade things with thieves, they are going to find a way to get around it. Similar to a house alarm, it is a deterrent, but unfortunately, if they want to get in or want to steal a vehicle...
Well, I guess it's like a wheel clamp, isn't it? I mean, it's a visual deterrent.
It is.
These aren't visual necessarily, but a wheel clamp can be cut off.
Yeah.
At least with this, if it's disconnected because it's been found,
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to scan it, know there's a tracker on it,
Yeah.
and then go and find it in the dashboard or wherever it's been hidden. Thieves aren't generally going to want to do that. Their normal practice is to go and hide the vehicle away for a day or a week and see if anybody comes for it.
It is, yeah. Yeah, that seems to be the common practice now.
Yeah, and then if nobody comes, they assume there's no tracker on it or nobody cares. And if it is disconnected, you get an alert it's been disconnected.
You do, yeah.
But this hidden one, this asset tracker, means that you can still see where it is if the tracker's been taken off.
Yes, yeah.
Love that. And we got one more.
Yeah, we have. So this is a personal tracker.
Now, my teenage boy has got one of these.
Yeah, these are really good for walkers, things like that.
Yeah.
We do have, I think we've got a couple of scout groups that have had these as well. So they have them in the backpack. So if in the event of something happening, obviously they can still track that, and it's got an SOS button as well.
Yeah.
So that would then be alerted on whoever's got the platform on the phone.
Well, we use one of these ourselves.
Yes. Yeah.
And we've put it in Ruben's school bag, only to see where he is, which is really useful. Again, we track it in the app, can't we?
Yes.
And if he had a problem, then you can press the button and all of us get alerted that something's gone wrong for him and we know where he is. So why do you have so many options then? Is it just about choice, or why are there? I mean, this is only some of your range, isn't it?
Yeah, we do still have we have a larger range because we do fleet vehicles, commercial vehicles as well. So we have larger ranges of the asset trackers. We have the 2G and 4G versions of the OBD port and the 2 wires as well. So at the moment we've got the UK is fine for 2G. We haven't got a closing date.
But it will get switched off.
But at some point it is going to get switched.
So all your trackers moving to 4G then?
It is something that we're looking to do, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So which would you say is the number one choice for a motorhomer or caravanner?
If your insurance hasn't specified you need a Thatcham unit, I would say save a little bit of money if you wanted to do that, and you'd go for a 2-wire device.
So the one you can fit yourself.
Fit yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's just about finding power and a hidden location for it.
Yeah.
I've got one of mine. It's hidden in the engine bay.
Yeah.
And it could be easily found, I'll be honest, and removed. But at least I would know.
Yes.
It's been taken off. Okay. And if your insurance say you have to have one?
Yeah, they will specify as to what level it needs to be as well, whether it needs to be an S5 or an S7.
Okay.
They won't usually specify on the ignition, so that is down to you if you want to put the immobilisation on there. So if you want to put the immobilisation onto the S5 with the driver recognition tag, that is something extra as well.
So this is the S5 Plus?
It is the S5 Plus, yeah.
Okay, right, okay. I get it. And without the fob, again, if you've got with no fob, you can start it if it's an S5. If it's an S5 Plus, which would be quite an expensive motorhome driving that requirement, you've got to have the fob present.
Yes.
Okay, so that's like the ultimate tracker, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, if you've got 2 drivers and only 1 fob, you can also get into the app, and that'll act as this.
Yeah.
It will communicate with
I got it, okay. Now, the other question we get asked a lot is about transferring this hardware. So you've made the investment into the hardware.
Yep.
You've maybe been paying your Thatcham subscription. You sell the vehicle. What are your options?
So we can get an engineer out to either take the tracker out and put it into a new vehicle, if you'd like to do that, or if you've sold it to someone and they're happy to take it and you're happy for them, we can leave the tracker in there and we can transfer details as well to a new customer. Because you may find that you're buying another vehicle that, again, already has a tracker in there.
So you can transfer the tracker and the subscription,
Yeah.
and there's no restriction on taking it off. And it doesn't matter what subscription plan you've bought, you can transfer it.
Yeah.
With a GPS Bob tracker.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, hopefully that's clear or clearer. Guy, thanks so much for coming in and explaining that. I really appreciate you coming in and sharing your knowledge with us.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you.
So that's Guy Carter, the technical engineering manager at GPS Bob. He's not Bob, he's Guy. Do you get it? He's a guy called Guy who's not Bob.
No one knows who Bob is.
Do they not?
No. I asked them, who's Bob? No
Who's
idea.
GPS Bob? Who is he?
I think it was a drunk night out by the team and they came up with this name. I thought, why not? I think it's a brilliant name. I think they're a brilliant company and it's a great product.
Do you need then to buy a Thatcham approved tracker, or can you do without?
It's going to be led by your insurance company. So the first thing to do is check with your insurer, do I need to have a tracker? And if so, what type? They might often ask you, what type of immobiliser does the vehicle have? Now, most Fiat and Ford vehicles and others, Citroën, Peugeot and so on, all come from the factory with what's called a Category 2 immobiliser, which means you can't start it without the key. Actually, not quite true. You can start them without a key, but you can upgrade the immobiliser with an alarm or an immobilisation system, or even with a tracker, which makes it a Category 1. So that's the highest level of immobilisation, which means you must have the key or you need some kind of fob in the vehicle with you in order to start it.
A fob for the Bob.
A fob for your Bob. Yeah. So, it's going to be led by your insurance company, but you could choose to fit one and then tell them you've got one, and they may reduce your premium by, a few pence.
A few pence or a few pounds. Ask. Remember, we've been talking about insurance a lot over the last few weeks. Have an open conversation with the insurance company. Ask them those questions. And if you're unsure about anything, ask them to clarify. So I've gone to pick up my brand new or second-hand motorhome, which I'm going to be driving around in the summertime. And I phone the insurance company and I say, I'm driving away now. The cover can start. And they say, is the tracker fitted? And I say, well, no, I'm having it done tomorrow. What happens?
Well, technically, you won't be driving it away with insurance, so they could stop you from getting insured. So it's really important, this, and I've heard lots of people falling foul to this, where they arrive at the dealership to pick up their motorhome, be it new or used, but the insurance company covering it want it to have a tracker. It's not been fitted, and they have to go back home in the car. Now, an insurance company may say, right, we're going to give you 7 days grace or 10 days grace to get a tracker fitted.
But pay us another £150.
They might say that, or they might insist that it has a wheel clamp, or you may be able to justify blocking it in with a car or doing something to give them some sort of peace of mind. And that's what this is about. It's about protecting the asset that they're insuring. They want to see that when it's nicked, if it's nicked, that they have got a chance of seeing where it is and getting the police to recover it. So make sure you check with your insurance company long in advance before you go to the dealership for that big handover day. You can work with a dealer to get a tracker fitted, or you can just work with a tracking company who will send an engineer to that dealership and they will fit it there for you.
Fantastic. Now, what's the top thing a buyer should keep in mind when shopping for a tracker? You said earlier there are differences, there are different subscription levels.
Yeah.
So what should you be looking at?
So what is it going to cost? So what kind of subscription am I going to pay? There are brands like Global Telemetrics who offer a monthly payment plan. They offer an annual payment plan. You can do a 2-year, a 3-year plan, or you can do a lifetime plan. But beware, if you do their lifetime plan, you cannot transfer the tracker from that vehicle to another down the line. It stays on the motorhome for its life. So if you want the ability, if you think a couple of years' time I'm going to change this motorhome or caravan, so I want the flexibility to take the tracker off, put it on the next one, don't buy a lifetime plan. Check with the tracking company what restrictions might they put on your ability to do that.
So if you have the lifetime one and you sell it to a third party, can that buyer then subscribe to that tracker in that vehicle?
They can, yes. They would just need to know the serial number of the tracking unit, the registration number, and the tracking company can set them up as a new customer. Of course, you only pay a subscription if it's Thatcham approved. If it's not monitored, you just have access to what that tracker is doing via an app. And a tracker lifetime, normally, I mean, we've got them that are about 8 years old, maybe 10 years old, and that's when the ones we have anyway, start becoming a little bit unreliable, and we have to replace them. They normally carry a warranty of 2 or 3 years. You can extend that warranty if you want to. So, ring the tracking company, liaise with them, and understand what the future looks like for your tracker.
Fantastic. Well, we hope we've answered some of those questions for you. Just a quick one, just a last one. You mentioned you've got them on some of your vehicles. Now, there's no moving parts to these. This is a discrete device. It's electronic, and it has GPS coverage with the satellites, which are whizzing above us every day. But if you were buying a brand new motorhome yourself, Matt, as the expert, would you fit one?
100% yes. And the other bit I would add is the ability to isolate the starter motor. So I went out onto the drive only last week to start our van, and it wouldn't start because I'd immobilised it via the tracker, and I do that via my mobile phone. So I then had to re-trigger it via my mobile phone, get the code that was emailed to me, type it in, wait about half a minute, and then it would start. So it's a really effective security device, but it did catch me out because I'd forgotten I'd done it.
Motorhome Matt approved as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Do check out GPS Bob. They are kind of, as I say, brand new to the motorhome industry. I have been really impressed by the team behind GPS Bob, and as I say, I think they're putting some fun back into trackers.
It's the Motorhome Matt podcast. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
Time for our questions and answers. Greg Sumner has been in touch.
Hello, Matt. I'm looking for a totally wheelchair accessible motorhome or camper van. And I've come across Coach Built. They do near enough exactly what I'm after. But I'm wondering, is there any other company like that that do the same sort of conversions?
So, Matt, Greg is asking, he wants a full wheelchair conversion. He's got a company in mind, but he wants to know, is there any competition in the marketplace?
Yeah, so Coach Built GB, Kate and the team are amazing, and they absolutely will look after you. They are experts at this, recognised by many insurers. But we know of a company called Brook Miller as well. Now, I've never dealt with them personally. I have a customer that stores their motorhome with us, and they have had a wheelchair adaptation done to it with a rail all through the roof. And I've seen it, and it looks phenomenal. And they love it. They love the conversion, and they love the company that did it for them. So Brook Miller are their name. But I've not had a personal experience of them other than seeing some of their workload. Whereas with Kate and the team at Coach Built GB, we've worked together for years, and I know them all quite well. They are super helpful. I would say if you found a company that can fulfill your needs, then just go for it. Go with them.
And don't forget, the company that you deal with should be able to guide you for the VAT exemptions and also some of the benefits that you will be due for that conversion.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, they are experts in their field. So, yeah, trust their judgment, certainly.
Mark Bassance in Canterbury. What are the pros and cons, he asks, of different types of motorhomes? The meaning of Class A, B and C, for instance. And how do you maintain and care for a motorhome to ensure its longevity?
So, great question. An A-class motorhome, very quickly, has got a huge windscreen, looks like a bus. A C-class motorhome, the A, B and C thing is quite American, and it's a terminology used in the States. A coach built, as we call them here, is a van with a body built on it, and in the States that would be called a C-class motorhome. But we have a whole episode on this for you. It's called Different Types of Motorhomes. You'll find it in our back catalogue. And caring for a motorhome, we have an episode called Cleaning for Your Motorhome, where I interviewed George from a local valeting company, and he explains the do's and don'ts of looking after your motorhome. So go and check them out.
Fantastic. Remember that whole library of Motorhome Matt podcasts. We've been going now for nearly 3 years, haven't we? It's one hell of a library.
I wonder what you're going to say then.
Tony Roberts is of no fixed abode. We think he's living in his van. Formerly, he's from Cumbria. He asks, "Hi Matt, I'm sure there will be a growing interest to many of your audience. I discovered today that the Lancashire County Council is banning the purchase of 2 parking tickets for motorhomes in all its car parks." I presume he means he buys 2 parking tickets and parks across two separate spaces.
Exactly that.
He says it's basically banning all motorhomes from the area. Also, Southport Council have banned motorhomes from using any park and ride facility. So between the two, this is a clear sign that motorhomes are not welcome in Lancashire. He goes on to say, I hope this will not become a trend for other councils. What could we do to inform and convince councils across the UK of the value of motorhome tourism? He says another worrying trend is the massive stock levels at dealers. I was recently at Brownhills in Newark, one of the biggest in the area. Their stock was overflowing in all directions. Are potential buyers waiting for a discount deal? Are motorhome values on the decline? Quite a lot to unpack there from Tony Roberts of No Fixed Abode.
He's getting his money worth and worrying a lot.
He is worrying a lot.
He's worrying about
the thing
a lot
that
of
strikes me that in Lancashire they don't have the height restriction into the car parks, which is usually the thing that stops most motorhomes.
That's very true. Well, they're not banning motorhomes in Lancashire. They're just stopping motorhomes from parking in certain car parks.
It does seem a bit petty, doesn't it? If you're buying 2 tickets and parking across 2 spaces, they would want to stop you doing that if there's no height restriction. I mean, it is a bit petty, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's a real shame. It's a real shame. The question Tony poses, how do we convince a council to be more open-armed and welcoming to motorhomes? That's a great question. And there are people that spend many years of their lives trying to do this.
And we must say there are some councils that are on the ball.
Very true.
And are offering more for motorhomes,
yes.
aren't they?
So I think the only way really is to engage with your council, make them aware. I mean, I imagine they're stopping this because they see it for some reason as a problem. You know, they're stopping locals from parking a car in a car park because you're in there taking up 2 spaces, which halves the number of vehicles that can be parked. So they see the motorhome as a problem, but we ought to be really pitching into our councils the benefits that we bring, our ability to spend money locally in the local economy, and why motorhomes should be welcome. So I would encourage you to engage with your local council. We are trying to do the same here, engaging with our local councillor, who we've invited onto the podcast. He's agreed. So I'm hoping at some point in the near future we can get our local councillor talking motorhomes with us, which I think will be fascinating to give an insight into a council's view of motorhomes and why things like this are an issue for them. And we also want to talk airs, so the ability to park up in a permitted place with the council's blessing. I think it'd be a big topic.
Yeah, so Tony, refer back to our episode 2 weeks ago, Is the Industry in Trouble? That will give you some answers to the final part of your question as well. Well, we're done and dusted there, Matt. How do people get in touch?
Really easy. Head to mhmp.info/Ask Matt. Please click the orange button. Tell us where in the world you are and record your question. Or if you'd rather not do that, you can fill in the form and we'll read it out for you.
That's mhmp.info/Ask Matt. And if you're looking for trusted brands and services, then make sure you visit the Motorhome Matt approved directory at mhmp.info/approved. That's mhmp.info/approved. Tried and tested products by Motorhome Matt, which he then has given his seal of approval to.
Absolutely. And if you're watching on YouTube, please make sure you hit subscribe and click the little bell. Brought to you by arabasecreative.co.uk.